Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and Marvel Rivals has officially arrived with the game launching to over 400,000 concurrent players on Steam alone, so not counting PlayStation and Xbox gamers, which is pretty remarkable. I think a lot of people expected it to be successful because it is free to play and has the Marvel IP, but this was so far a resounding success with very limited server problems, which I think is a good step as well, a good indication about the future of the game. There's a ton of features in this game to like as well, a lot of very good skins and MVP animations that are really well done, some collaboration with the MCU skins, which I think are pretty awesome. So the obvious question people have been asking, is Marvel Rivals the Overwatch killer? And to that I say, no. No game is going to kill another game in its entirety. That's just not how things work. Will it potentially siphon off players from Overwatch? Maybe, especially if it's good long term. Do I think it's going to lead to the full demise of Overwatch? Absolutely not. And there's a few different reasons for that I want to talk about in this video. First of all, gamers have a sunk cost problem, meaning that they don't like to give up on a game that they've spent a lot of time, energy, and money on. They've learned the maps, they've bought the skins, they've learned the characters. And once that happens, and a game starts feeling comfortable, it's easy to stick with it long term and decide not to move on, even though you might not be enjoying it as you once did. And that's a major issue for a lot of gamers. We see it all the time with Call of Duty players. They will complain endlessly about the game, and yet they'll buy the new entry every single year. Overwatch has built a massive fan base, people who love the characters, who enjoy the gameplay, who are just really connected to the game and have that nostalgia that just can't be replicated by a newer title, and that's something that just is impossible to ignore. Another major issue with any game killing another game that we've seen with COD killers, Overwatch killers, Destiny killers in the past is the fact that as long as that game continues to put out good content, people will come back for it. So my hope is not that Marvel Rivals kills Overwatch, but that it pushes Overwatch to be better. And so when there's a lull in content for Marvel Rivals, Overwatch could be there to pick up the slack and vice versa. Because the biggest problem with these games feeling stale is that people play them far too much. They get bored, they see the meta far too often, they see the same characters, and they just can't continue playing the game at that amount of hours over the course of multiple years. Marvel Rivals feels fresh, it's going to feel really nice. It's launched with 33 characters, which is absolutely insane and provides a lot of flexibility to the meta. So I think it'll last quite a bit longer in the public eye because of that, because there's a lot of people who will bounce from character to character. There'll be tier lists, there'll be people saying this character or that character is broken or underwhelming, whatever the case may be. But overall, the game is going to still face a lot of the same problems that other games face. Balancing over the course of time, new content continuously churning out, and other issues that Overwatch itself has faced. So in that regard, I do think Marvel Rivals is in good shape right now. There's a promising future, and it does seem like they're going to be launching multiple characters every season, which I don't know how they're so efficiently able to churn out characters compared to a game like Overwatch, but that does bode well for them. But once again, I do feel like there's other factors that will benefit Overwatch as well as far as it sustaining itself. You have the Overwatch League, which has struggled a bit in recent memory, but is still something that is highly successful, especially in certain countries where people absolutely still love it. It has been surpassed by other esports leagues, and I just don't see Marvel Rivals having a similar esport competition. So that is one place where Overwatch will always have the advantage in my opinion. Now, Marvel Rivals does have an option for in-game tournaments, which you can launch right from your director, which I think could be a more grassroots and fascinating way to handle things that I personally would prefer rather than a big major esport, because we've seen over the course of years that esports have been struggling with funding and paying the players enough money, hiring the right coaches, all that kind of good stuff. It is a very expensive process to not a lot of reward at times. Some other things to keep in mind when thinking about whether or not a game will kill off another is the fact that long term, it's impossible to know what decisions by developers will turn players off. For example, Helldivers 2 was absolutely resoundingly loved when it first launched, and then they made a couple bad balanced decisions, which Marvel Rivals could make as well. And when that happened, a lot of people were very upset. Now, they've rebounded, they've come back, launched some new content, made some fixes to the meta, and a lot of people jumped back into the game. But that does hurt the image of the title over the long haul, and all it would take is one excellent patch from Overwatch and one poor patch from Marvel Rivals for a lot of people to jump back the other direction. So there's a lot of things like that to consider. I do feel like Marvel Rivals is in a great spot to have sustainable success for the short and long-term features, which I think is very nice. I think we've been missing a game like this that might be a bit more casual friendly for Overwatch, might invite a lot of newer, younger generation players to the hero shooter space after Overwatch really hasn't been able to onboard new players successfully in the same way in recent years. So I think that is exciting, and we might see it in the opposite direction, where players get bored of Marvel Rivals over the course of time and ultimately end up jumping on to Overwatch 2 instead, especially with the return of 6v6 with some decent balancing changes. Stuff like that could make a massive impact. So overall, I'm very curious to see how each game goes over the long haul, but I do feel like Overwatch will continue to be a thing, will continue to be supported and loved by its core community. Marvel Rivals looks like, at least for the near future, will be very successful. The skins, I'm sure, are going to make insane money, which will bode well for that team as they are able to make future skins and future characters and have proper funding going forward. So I think that is a positive as well. And I do hope they avoid some of the issues, the pitfalls. I've had people in my comments suggest that Marvel Rivals should have PvE. The major downside to that is if you do put a lot of resources into developing PvE and it doesn't succeed, then it can really harm the core game, as we saw with Overwatch 2. So a lot of things to consider there. No, I don't think Overwatch will be dead or will be killed by Marvel Rivals. However, I think both can be successful to certain degrees over the course of the near and long-term futures. And overall, I'm excited to see where each game heads, and I hope they are able to challenge each other in a way that makes both better for the gamer, which is all that really matters in the end. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, my name is Jopa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.